All right, so you want to talk about profit taking. Let's dive in, shall we? Today's deep dive is going to be all about turning those crypto dreams into cold, hard cash, or at least stable coins. We're taking a look at a video by Crypto Casey, appropriately titled Crypto Profit-Taking Strategies.
It's a good one. Even if you think you know it all, there's always something new to learn.
Right, exactly. Especially with Crypto Casey, she always seems to break things down in a way that even your grandma could understand.
Yeah. And she doesn't shy away from the real talk about the risks involved either, which I appreciate.
Totally. But before we get too deep in all that, let's start with the basics. What exactly is profit-taking in the crypto world?
Well, think of it this way. You've got your crypto, right? And it's hopefully going up in value, those exciting paper gains we all love to see. Profit-taking is when you decide, okay, I'm going to sell some or even all of this crypto to lock in those gains. So instead of just hoping it keeps going up, you're actually turning that potential profit into something tangible.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So like, let's say I bought some Bitcoin back when it was, I don't know, $10,000. And now it's sitting pretty at, say, $20,000.
Exactly. If you decided to sell half of your Bitcoin at that point, boom, you've just locked in a cool $10,000 profit.
Sweet. But here's a question. When you say lock in, what are you actually locking it in as? Dollars, euros, or something else?
Good question. You've got options there. You can absolutely cash out into your good old-fashioned local currency, like dollars, euros, whatever you use.
Right, back to the familiar.
Yep. Or you can opt for stablecoins.
Stablecoins. Those are...
Basically, they're cryptocurrencies that are designed to hold a stable value, often pegged to something like the US dollar.
Ah, I see. So it's kind of like staying in the crypto world, but with like training wheels on.
That's a good way to put it. You get the stability of something like the US dollar, but you're still in the crypto ecosystem.
Interesting. Okay, so let's say I've locked in some profits, whether it's in dollars or stable coins. Where do I keep those profits? Do they just sit on the exchange?
Ah, that's where security comes in. You definitely don't want to leave those profits just hanging out on an exchange.
Right. Exchanges get hacked, things happen.
Exactly. Think of an exchange like, I don't know, a crowded marketplace. Lots of activity, but also potential for, well, pickpockets. Crypto Casey really emphasizes moving those profits off the exchange and into what's called cold storage.
Cold storage. So like my crypto freezer.
Kind of. It basically means storing your crypto offline on a device that's not connected to the internet. That way, it's much harder for hackers to get their hands on it.
Ah, okay. So like a digital Fort Knox for my crypto. That makes sense. Now, before we jump into all the specific strategies, I think it's important to acknowledge the elephant in the room. Crypto is still a bit of a, what do they call it, a Wild West, right?
Yeah, there's definitely that element of excitement and risk that comes with it.
Exactly. And I think Crypto Casey does a good job of reminding us that it's still a young market. Volatility is just part of the game.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you have to be mentally prepared for those price swings. It can be a roller coaster.
You said it. And that brings us to a golden rule. I mean, we say this all the time, but it's worth repeating. Never invest more than you can afford to lose. Seriously, people.
Yeah, Crypto Casey actually warns that there's always the potential to lose all of your invested funds.
Oof. Yeah, not trying to scare anyone, but that's the reality, unfortunately.
It is. So yeah, responsible risk management is absolutely key.
Okay, reality check complete. So let's get into the actual profit-taking strategies. Crypto Casey breaks it down into two main approaches, short-term and long-term. Let's start with the short-term strategies. This is where things can get a little, shall we say, spicy.
It's definitely more of a high-stakes game, like are you feeling lucky kind of vibe.
Like rolling the dice at a crypto casino.
Yeah, exactly. You're aiming for those quick wins. But like any casino, the house always has an edge, right?
Right, right. So if we're feeling the need for speed, what are some key strategies Crypto Casey outlines for those short-term plays?
Well, there are three main ones that a lot of short-term traders use. Aim for the gain, the sell schedule, and good old house money. Let's break down aim for the gain first.
Okay, sounds straightforward enough.
It is. Basically, you're setting a specific percentage gain at which you're going to sell your entire position. Let's say you bought some Dogecoin and you decide you're going to sell it all once it pumps 10%. Simple.
Okay, I see. So it's like setting a target and no matter what, sticking to it. But how do you actually make sure you sell at that exact point? You're not just like staring at the charts 24/7, are you?
Haha, no, hopefully not. That's where limit orders come in. Platforms like Coinbase let you set what are called limit orders. Basically, you tell the platform, hey, sell this much of this crypto when it hits this specific price.
Oh, that's smart. So it's like setting it and forgetting it, but in a good way.
Exactly. No more sleepless nights staring at charts, hopefully.
Love it. Okay, what about this sell schedule strategy? How does that work?
So the sell schedule is a little more nuanced. It's about creating a plan to sell off specific percentages of your holdings at different price points as the price climbs higher.
So instead of selling everything at once, you're kind of like taking profits in stages.
Right. Let's say you're really bullish on Ethereum, right? You could set a plan where you sell 25% of your Ethereum when it hits, say, $2,000. Then another 50% when it hits, like $2,500, and so on. So you're scaling out of your position as the price goes up, locking in profits along the way.
Hmm. I like that. So like even if the price keeps going up after you sell some, you've at least locked in some profit along the way.
Exactly. And guess what? Limit orders come in handy here too.
I bet they do.
You can use those limit orders on platforms like Coinbase to automate those sales at your chosen price points. It takes a lot of the guesswork and, frankly, the emotion out of it.
Very cool. Okay, so we've got aim for the gain and the sell schedule. Now let's talk about house money. This one always sounds, I don't know, a little too good to be true.
Right. It's definitely a fun one.
So what's the magic behind this house money strategy?
It's all about, well, not playing with your money. Let's say you invest, I don't know, $100 in some promising new altcoin, and let's say it doubles to $200. Boom. You immediately withdraw your initial $100.
So you're back to even.
Right. And you let the remaining $100, which is now technically house money, ride.
Wow, okay. So at that point, any further gains are pure profit. You've already gotten your initial investment back.
You got it. It's a great way to mitigate risk. Of course, even with house money, it's still smart to set some kind of target for taking profits eventually.
Right, don't get too greedy. Well, these short-term strategies sound pretty exciting. But to be honest, also kind of stressful. I mean, constantly watching prices, setting limit orders, managing risk.
Mm.
It sounds exhausting. Are there any, like, downsides to this approach?
Yeah, you got to be honest with yourself about your risk tolerance. It can be a really intense game. Those price swings can work against you just as fast as they can work for you.
So how do short-term traders protect themselves from, like, those sudden crashes? Are there strategies for managing those potential losses?
Oh, absolutely. There are definitely ways to manage that downside risk. It's all about flipping those short-term strategies we just talked about on their head.
Flipping them. Intriguing. Tell me more about this flipping technique.
Okay, so remember, aim for the gain. We'll flip that around and you've got limit for the loss.
Limit for the loss. Okay, I'm listening.
Basically, instead of setting a target for profit, you predetermine a percentage drop at which you'll automatically sell. It's like setting up a safety net to, minimize those potential losses.
So like if my investment starts tanking, this limit for the loss kicks in and saves me from losing everything.
Exactly. Let's say you buy some Solana and you decide you're only willing to stomach a maximum 40% drop. You can set what's called a stop loss order. It's similar to a limit order, but for selling. So if Solana dips below that 40% threshold, boom, it automatically sells.
Ah, I see. So you're not constantly glued to the charts, freaking out about a sudden crash. It's like having an insurance policy for your crypto.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. And you can do the same kind of flip with this sell schedule strategy.
Oh, right. Instead of selling at price increases, you'd sell at specific price drop intervals.
Exactly. So as the price falls, you're gradually selling off portions of your holdings.
Yeah.
It helps you, control those losses in a more measured way instead of panicking and selling everything at the bottom.
Makes sense. So it's like a gradual exit strategy as the price falls.
Yep. You're not letting your emotions drive those decisions.
Okay, I'm starting to get this whole risk management thing. But, honestly, all this short-term trading, even with the risk management, it just sounds so, I don't know, intense. Constantly monitoring prices, setting limit orders, managing those potential losses. It just seems exhausting.
Well, it's definitely not for the faint of heart. It takes a certain personality type to thrive in that kind of environment.
I can imagine. So for those of us who, let's say, prefer a more laid-back approach to crypto, what are the alternatives?
Well, that's where those long-term strategies come in. Think of it this way. You're not chasing those quick gains. You're in it for the long haul. You believe in the technology, and you're betting on its potential to, change the world.
So it's less about, like, timing the market and more about, like, riding the wave of crypto's overall growth.
Exactly. You're playing the long game. But even with a long-term mindset, profit-taking is still important. It's about turning those long-term gains into something tangible.
So it's not just about, like, watching your portfolio balance go up. You actually have to, like, do something with those profits eventually.
Exactly. Crypto Casey suggests defining clear goals for those profits. Like, what do you want to do with that money? Pay off debt, invest in real estate, travel the world.
Oh, I like that. Having those goals in mind can definitely help you stay motivated during those inevitable market dips. But let's be real, crypto is volatile. Even if you're in it for the long term, how do you actually go about realizing those profits without trying to, time the market perfectly?
Well, a popular approach for long-term holders is dollar cost averaging out of the market. It's usually referred to as just DCA.
DCA, okay. What is that exactly?
Basically, you're periodically selling off a small portion of your holdings as the price goes up.
Hmm. Interesting. So you're kind of smoothing out your selling process over time.
Exactly. It helps you avoid the stress of trying to pinpoint the absolute peak because let's face it, nobody can perfectly time the market.
Yeah, I've learned that the hard way. So
Yeah.
you're basically taking some profit off the table as the price rises, but not all of it.
Right. You're still letting the rest of your holdings ride the waves, but you're also securing some gains along the way.
Okay, that makes sense. So do those short-term strategies like aim for the gain and the sell schedule, do those still apply here in the long-term world?
Oh, for sure. You can definitely adapt them for long-term holdings. Maybe you decide to sell a certain percentage once your initial investment has, doubled or tripled in value.
Hmm,
Or you set up a schedule to gradually sell portions as the price reaches certain milestones.
got it. So even if you're a long-term holder, having some kind of profit-taking strategy is still crucial.
Absolutely. And the longer you're holding onto your crypto, the more important security becomes too. Remember that cold storage we talked about earlier?
Oh yeah, the crypto Fort Knox.
Right. If you're holding crypto for years or even decades, that cold storage becomes super important. Those hardware wallets, like the ones from Ledger or Trezor, are a good choice if you're serious about security.
Okay, noted. Keep those keys safe. So we've talked about short-term strategies, long-term strategies, but are there any other general things we should keep in mind when it comes to profit taking, no matter what approach we're using?
Definitely. Crypto Casey actually talks about a few potential pitfalls that can trip people up.
Ooh, pitfalls. I don't like the sound of that.
Don't worry, I'm sure we can navigate them. First up, transaction fees. Those pesky little things. Every time you move crypto around, whether it's to or from an exchange or even between wallets, you're going to incur fees.
Oh, right, the fees.
Ah,
They can really add up, especially if you're making a lot of transactions.
exactly. And they can eat into those profits, especially if you're working with smaller amounts.
Ouch. So are there any ways to minimize those fees?
Well, some exchanges will offer reduced fees if you're trading larger volumes, and some platforms like Coinbase One actually offer zero trading fees along with other benefits. It's worth doing some research to find the most cost-effective way to move your crypto around.
Good tip. Okay, transaction fees, check. What else should we watch out for?
Believe it or not, your bank can sometimes throw a wrench in the works.
My bank.
Yeah.
What do they have to do with my crypto?
Well, sometimes banks can get a little, let's say, concerned about large crypto transactions. They might even freeze your withdrawals or deposits.
Seriously, that sounds like a nightmare, especially if you're trying to, cash out some profits.
It's not as common as it used to be, but it's still a possibility.
Yeah.
Crypto Casey's advice is to be proactive, have multiple bank accounts, and if you're planning any large crypto-related transactions, it's a good idea to, give your bank a heads up.
Good point. Transparency is probably key here.
Right.
Okay, so we've got transaction fees, cautious banks, anything else?
Let's talk about stablecoins for a second. Remember, they can be a convenient way to lock in profits while staying in the crypto world. But it's important to understand that some popular stablecoins, like USDC and USDT, are centralized,
Centralized, meaning what exactly?
meaning they're controlled by a single entity.
Oh, so theoretically, that central authority could, freeze your funds? That doesn't sound very stable.
You're right, it definitely introduces a level of risk. If you're looking for a more decentralized option, you might want to consider stablecoins like DAI.
DAI, okay. How is DAI different?
Well, DAI isn't controlled by a single entity. It relies on algorithms and smart contracts to maintain its peg to the US dollar.
So more decentralized, potentially more secure, but probably also, more complex.
Yeah, you often have to give up a little simplicity for more control. And speaking of things that can get complex, let's not forget about exchanges. Those are the platforms where, all the buying and selling of crypto happens. But they can also be a bit of a bottleneck, especially during periods of high volume.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that. Trying to buy or sell during a major price swing can be, impossible.
I feel you. Sometimes those exchanges crash or lag or even suspend withdrawals altogether. It can get pretty hairy.
So what's the solution? How do we navigate those exchange-related challenges?
Well, Crypto Casey recommends diversifying your exchange risk. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. Use multiple reputable exchanges and make sure you've gone through all the necessary verification processes beforehand. It might seem like a hassle, but it can save you a lot of headaches down the road.
Good advice. Okay, so spread the risk, be prepared. Got it. Anything else on this list of potential pitfalls?
One last thing to consider, regulators. Governments around the world are still figuring out this whole crypto thing, and regulatory actions can have a big impact on specific projects.
Yeah, that's true. We're still kind of in the early stages of this crypto Wild West. Things can change pretty quickly.
They can, so it's always good to stay informed about regulatory developments and, have exit strategies in place, just in case.
Okay, stay informed and be ready to pivot. Good advice. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the importance of profit taking, the risks involved, all sorts of different strategies, and even some things to watch out for along the way.
Phew. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, to be honest. It's a lot to take in, for sure. But hey, knowledge is power, right?
Right, right. And we're not done yet. Remember how Crypto Casey hinted at an alternative profit-taking approach? Something that lets you, like, profit from volatility without actually having to predict it?
Yeah, that definitely piqued my interest. What is that all about?
Well, we're going to dive into that in the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We're about to wrap up our deep dive into all things crypto profit-taking. We've talked about so much, but in this final part, we're going to explore something a little different, a little bit outside the box.
I'm all ears. We've gone from those, quick fire short-term trades to that Zen-like long-term holding. What else is there?
Right. We talked about setting price targets, creating those sell schedules, even playing with house money.
Yeah.
But what if there was a way to basically automate this whole process?
You mean like set it and forget it? Let something else make those profit-taking decisions for us.
Exactly. What if you could, like, hand over the reins to an AI? Remember how Crypto Casey briefly mentioned those AI-powered robotic crypto traders?
Yeah, it sounded a little too good to be true. Like, are those things for real?
Well, she specifically mentioned one called Go Baby Trade.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine, having this tireless trading robot working for you 24/7, constantly scanning the market, making those buy and sell decisions based on, pure data.
So instead of us humans agonizing over charts and news headlines, we let this robot do all the heavy lifting.
Pretty much. And here's the interesting part. It doesn't actually try to predict future price movements.
Yeah, it doesn't. Well, then how does it make money?
It focuses on capitalizing on volatility. Remember, we talked about how volatility can be both a good and a bad thing in crypto, right? Well, this Go Baby Trade thing, it aims to basically exploit those price swings to its advantage.
So it's not about predicting which way the price will move, but rather about like profiting from the movement itself no matter which direction it goes.
Exactly. It's constantly analyzing the market,
Yeah.
identifying those little micro movements, and it can take advantage of even tiny price fluctuations. Think of it like I don't know, like a super efficient scalper, but with like AI superpowers.
Okay, that makes sense. But do we actually know if it actually works?
Crypto Casey shared some pretty compelling results. She highlighted one trader who started with just under $1,000 and managed to pull in over $1,200 in profit. That's a gain of over 122%. And she said she's been testing it herself since the beginning of the year and has seen, consistent positive results.
Wow, that's impressive, especially considering how crazy the market has been lately.
Right. It makes you wonder if maybe, AI is the key to cracking the crypto code.
Maybe so. So how can we learn more about this Go Baby trade? Where do we sign up?
No need to sign up just yet. Crypto Casey mentioned that they host free weekly webinars. You can learn all about it, ask questions live, really get a feel for how it all works.
Free webinars, huh? Definitely gonna check that out.
Yeah, we'll include a link in the show notes for our listeners too. So there you have it. Another way to approach profit taking, one that completely flips the script on traditional methods. Instead of trying to outsmart the market, you're basically leveraging the power of AI to work for you, capitalizing on volatility rather than fearing it.
It's definitely a different way of thinking about things. But at the end of the day, I think the key takeaway from all of this is that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to profit taking.
So true. Whether you're a short-term trader, a long-term holder, or you're thinking about dipping your toes into the world of AI-powered trading, the best strategy is the one that aligns with your individual goals, your risk tolerance, and your comfort level.
Couldn't agree more. There's no right or wrong answer here. It's all about finding what works for you. And ultimately, Profit taking isn't just about like numbers on a screen. It's about turning those digital assets into real world value.
Absolutely. It's about achieving those financial goals, maybe even, using those profits to live a more fulfilling life. That's what it's all about.
Well said.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into crypto profit-taking strategies. We've covered a lot of ground, explored a lot of different approaches, and hopefully given you some food for thought. Until next time.